Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Europe Housing Forum 2021 at the session Housing Innovation to Radically Improve the Lives of Low-Income Families, supported by the Hilti Foundation, Whirlpool, Wienerberger and Somfy Foundation. Let me start this session with actually bad news. 3 billion people will live in inadequate shelter by 2050 if we are not doing something now. If you can imagine, this is 4 times entire Europe. So every person in entire Europe would live in slums and informal settlements. That means you and me, your family, my family, trapped in a cycle of poverty, poor health, and social injustice. That's really bad news in my opinion, and it breaks my heart. But you know, there are also good news. That you are here in the Europe Housing Forum shows that there are people who care actually about affordable housing. And we all must bring the topic to as many corporations, organizations, investors, accelerators, academia, and startups and scale-ups as possible. For technology innovations in affordable housing, we as Habitat for Humanity created a term which can be used also by the entire industry, shelter tech. And today, I'm really thrilled to have 4 amazing shelter tech startups here with us. We have Morgan Bobs. She's Chief Innovation Officer at Ilu Mexico. She actually is a serial entrepreneur and co-led the launch of Soluna Energia in Colombia and Narvayo Power Home in Navajo Nations, United States, and Colibri in Nicaragua. She was also recognized as a Clinton Lead Fellow and an Echoing Green semifinalist. She graduated from Tufts University with a double major in economics and international relations. Then also I want to mention that they were the Shelter Tech Award winner in Latin America and the Caribbean. And one of her very nice guiding mantras in her careers is, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed yet. Sondre Stovja, he's based right now in Norway, Oslo to be specific. He's a co-founder and CFO at Materials Mappers. Sondre has a background actually from the financial markets, real estate, and also startups. He was, for example, Chief Investment Officer of Stoy Investment or Head of Finance of InFocus Productions. He's a co-founder and investor in several successful startups with exits to public listed companies. So we want to hear from that as well. And he studied at MIT and is an expert in artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, innovation and entrepreneurship. And they're also the holder of the Shelter Tech Award in Europe. Francisco Rojas, founder at Hope Chile. Francisco is one of the very, very necessary impact investors and also social entrepreneurs, and was chosen to the top 100 young leaders of 2020. And they were the winner and selected scale-up for the Shelter Tech Andean Region Accelerator. He has focused his work on finding creative and dignified solutions to address problems related to extreme poverty. And then we are having a black belt carrier in terms of winning titles. Prasoon Kumar, thank you for joining, co-founder and the CEO at Billion Bricks from the Philippines. He is also the president, design awardee, TEDx speaker, winner of Singularity University Global Grand Challenge, and named Urban Land Institute 40 under 40. He graduated summa cum laude from Arizona State University with a Master of Urban and Environmental Planning and an outstanding graduate award. He is an architect, worked in India, USA, Hong Kong, Singapore. And a fun fact is also Billion Bricks products got actually described by Ashton Kutcher as innovation as its finest. You know, this famous actor. And he was one of the winners and selected scale-ups for the Shelter Tech Southeast Asia Accelerator. There is more to say to all of them, all of our panelists, but I feel already a little bit intimidated here, so I'll stop and I'll open the panel in 1 second. You've heard, ladies and gentlemen, also about Shelter Tech now several times. I would like to highlight that as Habitat for Humanity, again, we defined this, this term to say, let's really give affordable housing startups or housing startups in general a really good term, so this can be integrated into the industry. But for us as Habitat for Humanity, it also means our work within startup and scale-up industry. And we really try to advance entrepreneurial shelter solutions that can radically improve lives of low-income families. And we focus that on 4 different mechanisms. Increasing the visibility of entrepreneurs, such as, for example, now, providing them with capital to our own shelter venture fund or also connections to other investors. We make hopefully also other connections, and we're ensuring that there is a business and market knowledge which then scale up the work. We do that with different initiatives such as the accelerators, community funds, events, awards, and tracks. So there is a lot going on as well, a lot of information, but now we of course want to hear from our panelists. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We've heard now a lot of your background there, where you're coming from, but we have not heard I did not talk about the companies you're actually leading. So tell us please a bit more about what you're doing, what it actually does in the industry, and let's start with Prasoon.
All right, thank you, Lizanne, and thank you everyone for coming for this session. And I've really never heard my introduction to be that long, so it was quite an experience as well. I know we have very limited time here, so I'll kind of jump into what really Billion Bricks is doing and what really excites us these days. So the premise of Billion Bricks is really founded on two key principles. Firstly, that housing is a big crisis in the world, and it requires scalable solutions. We find enough solutions in the world which are highly innovative, but you find them in little pockets of application. And when we talk about numbers like 1 billion or 2 billion people without homes, we really need something which can sweep across and we are able to catch up with the problem rather than keep lagging behind. The second issue that really is at the foundation of Billion Bricks is the fact that today we can't continue to build the way we've been building in the past. We have all agreed on, or at least most of us have agreed on, that climate change is a reality, and we need to address something which is ready for the future and not just today. And not only it's the climate change as an issue, but a lot of the people that we work with, they have much more exposure to what's going on in the world. They are much more aspirational, and can we meet those things? And in order to pick these two things together, we came up with an idea, which is what we call as a Billion Bricks community, where we combine utility scale solar farm and affordable housing into a single combined financially attractive solution. What that does is that not only do we sell houses to the people, we also sell the energy at utility scale through long-term power purchase agreements, which allows for 2 things to happen. Firstly, it attracts investment, which typically is unlocked away from affordable housing because of access to now energy. A lot of money is going in. Plus, we create financial synergies through 2 revenue models, which allow for the housing to be cheaper than what anybody else in the market would offer. So our houses typically can be anywhere from 20 to 60 to even 80% cheaper than what the market has to offer. It really depends on what kind of money are we raising to implement the project. So Billion Bricks as an organization is headquartered in Singapore. We are building our first large-scale community, which is where we work with Lizanne and her team closely in Sheltertech in the Philippines, which will be a 1,350 home project with 13 megawatts of renewable energy capacity as well. We have built a couple of prototypes both in India and in the Philippines, and our goal is really to kind of scale this up much faster than what we could have done otherwise. So the key components for us is really partnering with housing developers, plus energy companies that are looking to offset their carbon footprints and combining them together into building this affordable solution. So thank you again. Happy to answer any more questions. Visit the site at www.billionbricks.org to know more about our work, or write to me at prasoon@billionbricks.org. Thank you.
So please don't leave, Prasoon. It sounded like you're saying goodbye already. from one energy expert on one side of the world going to the other energy expert on the other side of the world. Morgan, could we also hear what you're doing in your company?
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Morgan Babs. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Ilu Mexico. But today I'm representing our sister company in Colombia, Soluna Energia, which was a finalist in the Shelter Tech competition. So Soluna Energia is a solar service provider for off-grid and grid-poor homes in Colombia. So we have a lot of overlap with the shelter tech industry, just because when a lot of times you think of inadequate shelter, you picture that there's a lack of services, lack of running water, lack of electricity, lack of gas, lack of internet, the list can go on. So we cover the energy side of things. So customers can contract a Soluna solar energy service. We come in, we wire the entire home, and then customers pay a flat monthly rate to use our quality electricity services. So as long as they're paying the flat monthly rate, that includes all maintenance and service that they might need. So effectively, we become their electricity service provider. We work in off-grid, grid-poor, really rural, really remote areas. Areas that often tend to be affected by climate disasters, areas where the grid has never been developed ever, places where people have been living without power for their entire lives, places with high levels of agricultural migration, a lot of kind of overlap with some of the issues with inadequate shelter too. So we've been operating for about a year in Colombia. We go directly to the customers and we sign them up for our service, but we also look for strategic partners to do kind of larger scale projects where, let's say, they'll have a batch of 1,000 or 2,000 or 500 individuals or homes in a certain region, and they want to make sure that they get them a quality electricity service provider. So Soluna can also collaborate with private organizations, governments on projects like that. So once again, we're Soluna, and we're a solar service provider for off-grid and grid-poor homes in Colombia. So we'll be talking a little bit more in details in a bit.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Francisco, want to go next?
Yeah, sure. But I have made a presentation to present ourselves because it's not that easy to talk about the idea that we're doing right now. So let me 1 second, please. Okay, let's get started. Francisco from Chile, Latin America. Thanks for being here today. I have been in 12 years ago, and 7 years ago I decided to innovate it, and we to get started, to explain why I was born. Start about the way to help people who do not have a place to spend the night. Institutions interested in doing something in this regard only thought about what is to deliver or just considered and seeing what's happened in the meantime before they could apply for a house. This is that's why we were selected to be part of Peanuts International weeks ago. We were invited to participate in the Habitat for Humanity program made by Bill Capital. Okay. Let's see the problem that we have. All the people that made the model, the disease is very low, very slow development speed. There are not enough spaces available. Implementation costs are high, causing a large number of programs break short term. What would an optimal solution be? According to it, they are installed quickly to mobilize a lot of people for development that can be where. Okay, what we propose?
Francisco,
Francisco,
you're
yeah.
You're breaking up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I think we'll need to stop sharing your presentation. Maybe you can just give it in words. And, you know, the great thing is you can have a bit more time for your introduction since I shortened your profile a little bit. So just go on. Really, what solutions are you providing?
Yeah, sorry. We think about the problem, step back. As I said, we think that people need a place to spend the night. We create shelters that we own the patent in Chile, USA, and YPO and all over the world. The shelter that we made is easy to build, and it can be installed in 30 minutes. The idea that we have is to make over the world in local companies, and it takes like 20 to 30 days to make, and we can have a lot of this put in all over the place. So what we are proposing is a way to approach the problem that we have now in a different way. That's for people that don't have a place to stay all overnight, and that's why we are here, and that's the problem that we see, and we want to.
Thank you so much, Francisco. We'll dive in a bit more, you know, how your shelters actually look like, right? They're out of containers, and we'll hear a bit more about your shelters. Sondre, can we hear from you as well?
Yes, good day, everybody. My name is Sondre Steva. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Material Mapper. So to start this off, I want to go back 2,000 years because what we're doing is that we're building a digital infrastructure for reuse of building materials. So going back 2,000 years, when they built the Colosseum, it was standing for a few hundred years. And then the people around took the bricks from Colosseum and built up new buildings besides of it. And why did they do that? One, it was cheap to transport. Two, it was obviously it didn't cost anything because the bricks were already there. So as Presun was saying, we need to start doing this otherwise when we demolish buildings. So what we do today is that we take the big wrecking ball and we just toss the building down, and then everything goes to waste. So that's why 40% of global waste sites today is from building materials, and we need to change that. So what we have built is that we built a platform that shows you every single building that will be constructed, that will be demolished, and that will be renovated municipality-wise. And over that, we build an estimator that tells you what amount of materials and what quantities of each material will be available, so that you can plan along in the future if you want to reuse building materials. And what's also very interesting here is that, for example, when a new building is being constructed, then they'll buy just a lot of amounts of materials, and they toss away maybe 1/3 of it is like the excessive materials from the building. And they actually pay somebody to go and toss this into the waste depots, while, for example, it could be used for shelter as you were speaking about, or it can also be used for low-income families to build their own homes without having to actually pay for them. So it's a win-win for all parties. Yeah, so how we do it is that we gather data from public databases, connect it to, for example, reports of like reuse reports. We also integrate with the marketplaces that tells us what materials will be available when and what they have for sale right now. And so far we covered 12 Norwegian municipalities and have some of the biggest construction companies as customers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sondre. You know, I think, again, having you on board also as a machine learning expert makes it easier to do this company. I was wondering for actually all of you, I mean, again, there is a huge opportunity as well, right? There is a huge market with low-income families or with shelters and with affordable housing. We just heard it's 3 billion people by 2050 in case we do not do anything. But it is also a hard market, especially also, Morgan, you talked about rural areas, not connected areas. How do you actually get to the communities? How do you find the people? And also, I guess there would be like a mindset change as well needed, that, you know, someone from the outside, maybe the trust build is hard yet. How do you really get to these communities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great question to talk about accessibility and also just kind of like objective attractiveness of the market, which I think is like a big mistake, or kind of kind of a big mistake in general when you think about like houselessness and access to energy. They're kind of traditionally these markets that, of course, are low income, low resource, sometimes very isolated individuals that like private organizations kind of just traditionally overlook because it's not profitable, it's not easy, it's not efficient. And that's kind of, I think, like one of the biggest disgraces or downfalls of like the way our world works today, is just this like complete like overlook of this massive market, and then not only because like, oh, it's a market and we need to, you know, be there, but because these are humans and these are people that deserve dignified shelter and dignified services. With all that being said, it is very hard, and it's, you know, I think it's frustrating that we're kind of unique in these industries, and I wish that more people, you know, just like Sandra and Francisco and Prasoon would be developing more solutions for this market. So, you know, in our case, we really are driving, in some cases, 7 hours to get to communities of customers. And then after we do that, we might have to walk for several hours, like between homes, because there's not always roads where we're working. We're also very affected by like weather events. So in certain locations where there is a road, it will be, you know, not able to use for half of the year because of rain. So, you know, then we'll have to change our entire operation to be like small boat based. And this is also particularly interesting when we're talking about installing under these conditions. So loading up, you know, huge solar panels and huge battery banks like into small boats and kind of sending them down the river. I think it's operationally challenging, but it's super exciting and it's definitely feasible. You know, Coca-Cola gets to every single corner of the world, so there's no reason that a solar energy company couldn't do that. So, you know, accessibility is definitely one of the challenges, and the remoteness. But I think that like practice makes perfect, and kind of we've become really specialized in distributing and in operating in these really remote, traditionally really challenging areas where, you know, in a lot of cases there's not even any connectivity to be able to contact your customers. But you know, it's definitely possible, and I would definitely encourage more companies to look at this market and look at these opportunities.
Thank you so much for also raising that, right? Because again, like the perceptive of the market, people think it's really hard, so investments shouldn't come in. Investments also from investors shouldn't get into these kind of startups, or, you know, solving these kind of problems. So it's good to hear you really say very direct as well. Again, like, so Coca-Cola, for example, gets to every community on this world. Why shouldn't we do this? I really like how you stated that. And Prasoon, I see you're back, maybe from your phone. Thank you so much for making it back. How do you get to the communities, or, you know, to the beneficiaries, basically? And maybe we should distinguish that, right? Can you maybe say Billion Bricks? Is it, you know, are the customers really the beneficiaries, or how do you do this as your startup?
Yeah, I think the key thing is that we don't use the word beneficiaries, we call them the customers. And our way to access them is in working with partners which are local that have access to our customers. So they could be either local developers, they could be governments, and our primary role, our technology on the housing side, our business model, which is very creative, plus our ability to raise funds. And then they are responsible, once we've provided for the houses, to actually sell them or provide them to the customer. Then we continue to work with the community over a period of about 25 years, because that's the time period that we manage the solar asset and provide mortgages to the community over that period of time.
Soon. Sondre, as I've heard also before, So your company is working mostly with real estate developers, right? Did I get that correct? What is your business model exactly?
Yeah, so we're a SaaS platform, and we have a B2B business model. So what we do is that we sell a license to use the platform, and then they can use it for a single project, or they can use it for several projects with several users, etc. So what they do is that we've spoken to one of the biggest consultancy companies in Norway, and they said that when they were to find reusable materials, they had to call the big real estate developers and ask them, "Hey, what do you get? Can you send us something? We'll take anything." But they didn't even know where it was coming from. So with our solution, they can check it out. They can see that maybe a building in the next block is actually being demolished or renovated, and then they can see in the documents what materials they can get from there.
It's actually surprising in that a lot of even big corporations are not yet so digitalized and also integrated with software, right? So one construction site doesn't actually know where the other construction site stands in terms of planning, which again, as you're saying, is a lot of waste, not just in building materials, but also in efficiency. Do you see that problem as well, in other countries, or are you really focusing on Scandinavia? And if yes, why?
I think that for us, this goes to the whole world. As I've seen it, and our research shows that there is not a lot of reuse of building materials. And I know that the Netherlands and Denmark is probably the most on top there. And also the Nordic countries are getting new regulations now that means that they'll come after it. So I think this is a huge problem for industry because it's one of the most pollutive industries in the world. So this is something that everybody can use, and this is something that we are going to scale throughout the Nordics and Europe by the next few years.
Thank you very much, Sondre. Francisco, we were speaking about the customers and how we also get to the customers. How do you do it? How do you provide shelters?
Yeah, we have two ways of doing it. First of all, we work with the governments or institutions that already have made a solution or a program for people that need shelter. And we provide the shelters because it's very difficult to find a place to make a shelter because of the how society looks, the problem, how governments look the problem. So we provide the solution that can be implemented or made in anywhere. So in a park, in a car lot, or anywhere we can put it. It's not needed a lot of permissions from the municipalities to do it. And the other way that we are implementing right now, because we see that governments look the problem like is a very different way that we all look at it. Sorry. So we create a center. This center is made between us that provide the infrastructure and and other startups. The other startups made programs for the people in the shelters, and that programs can help the people leave the streets, the homeless leave the streets. And after that, we are going to help the people to learn a new job skill, like build a house, and we are going to make a whole village. So we want to be in every step of the way to people, since they are in the streets and live in the street, making their own home. That's the idea that we have right now, and we are making it here in Chile.
Thank you so much. I want to give you again the chance, because we missed that before. Can you talk a bit more about the shelter itself, how it looks like? Can you describe? And then also, by the way, we posted all the websites into the chat for everyone to look at it. Also, if you do have questions, please write them into the chat. We'll take them up in a few minutes.
Yeah, don't worry. Sorry for the bad connection. I don't know what happened, but
I just said I think it's one of your three sons playing some games or something.
Yeah, maybe. The shelters are in a 20-foot containers, and it looks like something like the cubicles hotels that are in China or in Japan, and there are 10 cubicles inside these 10-foot containers with all the technology that they need. So there is heating systems. There are UVC light for cleaning. There is a bed inside, and they are completely isolated. Today is very important that because of COVID and all the things that we are living right now, they are completely isolated between them and with the outside. So we can use every square meter in the container. So we don't have that problem that all shelters have right now, that they can only receive few people. We can receive all the people that that the shelters have bed for. And today we have 9 shelters made. We have provided more than 30,000 nights, and we have received more than 15,000 people in the last 2 years. So we're very proud of that. And like I said, the most important thing about this is that we can make it all over the world. It's not a thing that we make here and we send it to another country. Is it needed in the United States, Mexico, Colombia, I don't know, everywhere? Talk with providers over there to let them made it and be in the where we are needed. So that's the solution that we have implemented today.
And it's also usable, for example, for refugees, right? Or problems in refugees. Yeah. So, for example, again, in Europe, we do have right now a crisis as well. So this could be something people or governments could look at.
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
Thank you very much, Francisco. We were talking about customers right now. I'd like to move forward to investments. Again, as Morgan stated before, sometimes also from impact investors, it is wrongly perceived that shelter tech startups are not investable. Can you maybe describe a bit your funding journey as well, and how you actually also started the journey and where you are at right now, Morgan?
Yeah, of course. So like I mentioned, Soluna was founded right at the beginning of 2020, which means we immediately had some challenges due to COVID. But that's also when we started our funding round. We did a small seed round of $750,000 that was led by Acumen, which is a major leader in terms of socially responsible investing all around the world. And then we were joined by a bunch of angel investors in Colombia. So this was very much kind of our funding round was very regionally focused. Acumen was the only kind of foreign investor that participated at the time. And this kind of got us to our first couple hundred customers. I think that we very much, energy access, the energy transition is a very important and kind of very complementary topic right now to shelter tech. And it's kind of super important to think about kind of the next generation of utilities and what does energy of the future look like, considering the challenges we have today. And that's kind of a really important angle we push when we're raising capital, in addition to, energy access and just the really important kind of improvements to livelihood and opportunity that comes along with energy access. But our $750,000 seed round was all a convertible note. So that will, eventually convert into equity at our next financing round, which will likely be later this year. We're going to be raising a couple $1 million.
Very much, Morgan. Let's talk on a sidetrack about this. Basun, can you also share a bit, on your investments or your founding rounds?
Sorry, did you ask me?
I asked Prasoon, and I'm just I'm holding the space to see if he hears me. Okay, I'll come back to you, Prasoon, later in case you can hear me. Sondre, what about you?
Yeah, same as Morgan. We founded the company in March, April 2020. So it was like day one shutdown. So that's always a great start. But yeah, we actually went straight on to winning like something called Global Hack. So then we got some money from there. We had a convertible note from me and one of the other co-founders. Then we also raised another convertible note of like $300,000 ish last spring. And now we're doing our first seed round. So it's an equity investment round of about 1 million euros. So a lot of different currencies here, but yeah, so we're doing that now, and we're in talks with lots of prop tech investors, some real estate companies, and yeah, and some angel investors.
Much Prasoon. We're talking about investments.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, our approach has been where we are funded by a corporate venture arm of ENGIE, which is one of the largest private energy producing companies. So we see ourselves at the cusp of what Sondre mentioned as prop tech, at the same time at climate tech as well. And we do see with the on the climate side that we are getting more and more traction from that end with regards to the possibilities for funding for us. We do think that the revenue side would be strong for us as well. So I think once we've done the initial concepts post the seed stage, then we should be self-sufficient.
What about you, Francisco?
We have win some prizes over here in Chile, government funds. Have major investors. We have been scaling up with our own sales. So, and we are looking for new investors to be in other countries with this. But the thing that we have the best is that we don't major investor to be in another country because we use the bank or the capital of the companies over there that already provide. We only need clients to make it. We don't need to have a lot of things done. We only need human resources over there, and that's all. So that's why we don't searching for a lot of investors now, and we are now looking for it.
Thank you very much, Francisco. I really want to hear, like what all of you actually need from the support system or from the industry actually that you can accelerate your growth and you can really scale. I mean, again, we are always hearing about unlocking capital or accelerators or connections or whatever. What do you think is like the top number one which you would need so you can really scale? Morgan, let's start with you.
That's number one for us to scale. Jeez. Yeah, I think there's to be honest, I don't know if there's a top number one thing because I don't want to like put my eggs in one basket. But one thing I will comment on is I think that like private solutions like Soluna can get really, really far just kind of selling direct to customers. Possibly doing some sort of customer acquisition via other private companies. But we are talking about energy, and energy, a lot like Shelter, kind of in a way, it's like a public service. It's very much of public interest. And I think that we can get very far on our own, but something that really helps us scale is when public policy and public incentives are aligned. So when governments have certain policies or regulations that really favor growth of companies like Soluna, like Billion Bricks, like all of my fellow panelists here, I think that's very game changing. So if and also not only kind of like accelerating our growth via favorable policies and regulations, but stop churning out policies and regulations that actually like go kind of against what we're trying to do. So, we still see governments all around the world kind of invest in diesel microgrids for energy access, when like that's not a technology of the future. Like, let's kind of switch gears and invest in solar, because your diesel microgrid's not going to like last very long. So I think that public sector alignment is really, really key in kind of catalyzing like the kind of the growth of solutions like ours.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Sabe, how is it with the materials mapper?
Yeah, for us, so it's a lot of showing like how much the industry is actually polluting. So in Norway, now there will be new regulations coming 2022. It says every construction needs to have a reuse report so that they actually show what can be reused in there. And they also have to have a climate gas audit. So they show how much climate gas they actually let into the atmosphere, and they also get fines for that. So that's a great step towards actually wanting to reduce those emissions, and they're also saving money.
And I mean, so Sondre, maybe to also build on that, what you're saying, I would say you are also focusing on circular economy, or can also check that box, right? Do you also see the importance that you're really within the trend, and with that also the investors' focus is actually looking at you? Do you see that changing as well? That there's a trend and investors are coming because of that to you?
Absolutely. So there's a huge trend on that, and it's like climate tech, prop tech is very interesting right now. Also, what we see is that focus on the big real estate companies is also more towards being green than being 100% profits, because it's an industry that's done the same for 100 years, only profits. So now we see they actually start to change a bit, and I think that will help the industry a lot.
Thank you very much. Francisco, you're back. Thank you so much. Prasoon, you're there as well. If you would need to name your top one, what the support mechanism should do, what should we do? In case you're still here. Good. Well, we are nearing actually the end. I quickly want to conclude this. So we just said that, public sector alignment is crucial. We need to see an increase of the trend of, again, prop tech, shelter tech, climate tech, etc. Within the investors industry as well, as because the startups are obviously here, right? So there are startups who are ready to invest, to be invested in, and who are ready and already serving a lot of customers. Prasoon, do I hear you? Are you back?
Yeah. And I was saying that I think the key thing really is, I think, the risk appetite from the investment community, right? So today you can see a lot more money flowing into, say, for example, building housing on Mars as opposed to on planet Earth, right? So the drivers of what drives a clear change in our society, ambition, ego, real core problems. It requires a shift in attitude. A lot of money is going into soft tech, but not in hard tech. So I think the attitude needs to change of the investment community. And I'm surprised Sondre mentioned that people are looking around beyond profit at other aspects as well while they look at it, but no one's willing to give even a percentage point away from their profits today, right? So it's good to have ESG goals, but profit still is supreme.
Love how you're stating that very, very clearly, right? I think this is something people must hear, that we must really put something in the pockets also of the startups, so they can growth, and not just thinking about the wallets, which just becomes thicker and thicker and thicker. So again, we are nearing end of 2021. Some of us will celebrate Christmas and New Year soon. What do you actually wish for 2022? What do you wish as a startup founder or co-founder or partner for 2022? Francesco.
Good question. I don't know. For the company, obviously, to be in other countries for mid 2022, but I think that the most for the time is to have more spaces like this to present our.
Thank you so much, Morgan.
I'm gonna echo what Prasoon said and kind of keep pushing for more kind of systemic or mindset changes where people invest based on real human problems and not egos. And kind of, again, what I always say is that the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed yet. If we can talk about housing on Mars, that means that the future is here, but we still have an estimated 3 billion people that will be without adequate shelter in the next couple of years. So I think it's a complete misaligned priority. And it's frustrating. I don't want to sound negative about it, but people do need to come back to Earth.
Thank you so much. Sondre?
I just want quickly to what Prasoon said just before, because Prasoon, you're 100% right. Everything that matters in real estate is profit. But what we've shown in Norway so far is that we have green certifications of buildings. So obviously it costs more to get them green certified. But also studies show that they get higher property value and higher rental income. So you're completely correct, but they also use a bit more money now to do the green certifications. For 2022, hope of the increased reuse of materials, and obviously that the company is going to scale, going into Sweden and Denmark.
Thank you. Prasoon?
Yeah, I mean, as a startup founder, I'm really looking forward to, and I'm so I've been losing here from the past many years, so I'm hoping that they'll start growing in 2022. As we start to build some houses and really see some action on the ground.
Thank you so much. So thank you very much, Morgan, Sondre, Francisco, and Prasoon, again from Billion Bricks, Hobby, Soluna Energia, and Materials Mapper. It was amazing to have you here today. For the audience, the Europe Housing Forum is far from over, so please check out on Deal Room again on the platform what you want to still join. There's an expo where you can visit everyone again and read from everyone. And there's also the award ceremony where you will see Materials Mapper again on November 19 at 5 p.m. I wish you all the very, very best. Thank you very much for this fruitful and actually deep conversation, and talk to you very soon. Have a good day.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.